by the court at the request of Kevin Franke. Now, the injunction imposes restrictions on the parties to ensure a peaceful and fair proceeding. Now, Kevin Franke issued this statement through his attorney saying, quote, "We have filed a petition for divorce for Kevin Franke. We didn't want to initiate any fanfare ahead of time because this is just a continuation of the ripping off of this never-ending Band-Aid for this family." Now, the mother of 6 is facing charges of aggravated child abuse on the heels of gaining national recognition for her parenting and lifestyle tips. So our question we're asking our legal eagles this morning, how could this affect Franke's pending trial? Can it? Let me bring in our guest. Still with me, the state attorney in Palm Beach County, Florida, Dave Ehrenberg, and want to welcome in criminal defense attorney and also former prosecutor, Michael J. Brown. Good morning to you both. Okay, so can this divorce affect the trial? Michael, you're just joining us. Let me start with you, please.
Good morning, Julie. I don't think it affects, obviously, the evidence in the courtroom itself. The fact that he seeks a divorce really is not evidentiary nature, and that should have no bearing on the case. But the reality is, from the jury standpoint, these folks who are sitting in the jury and they see that the husband is now looking to get as far away from his wife as possible, I think in their mind, subconsciously, there may be this thought of, hey, you know, even he's leaving her and he's abandoning ship. She's guilty. So I think in that regard, it would.
The distance. I love that you brought that up, Michael. Dave, let me go to you on that point, please. Is this potentially self-serving because of the outstanding question that maybe there could be some criminal liability with Kevin Franke? After all, he is the children's father. Your thoughts on that, please?
You read my mind, Julie, from one former prosecutor to a current one. Yes.
We think alike, right?
We think alike. That's exactly where I was going. I agree with what Michael said. I totally agree with what he said about that. I don't think it's a big deal evidentiary, but I do think it could influence prosecutors when they're making their own charging decisions. There were questions about Kevin's involvement in this and the fact that he's saying, oh, she's the bad guy, I'm out of here. I think prosecutors look at that because when originally it seemed like he was supportive of her, I think they probably maybe there is something to the fact that they were in this together, they were in cahoots. But so I think this is definitely self-serving.
And Michael J. Brown, let's dovetail off of that point. So let's just say you're representing Kevin Franke, and he's worried, and he's like, oh, are they coming after me next? What would be the best piece of advice you would give him right now?
Well, assuming he has no criminal culpability, if that is the case, then I certainly would do a proffer with the prosecution, sit down, sign what we call a queen for a day, where he's in essence allowed to talk about things that can't be used against him in direct, to protect him and with the hope that he may very well testify against his wife if that's what he chooses to do, so that he can insulate himself from any criminal liability.
I like it. Good advice. All right, let's switch gears now to the state of Georgia, where a judge is rejecting a motion to dismiss the charges against former prosecuting attorney Jackie Johnson. Now, this ruling comes nearly 20 months after Johnson's defense attorneys filed the motion, arguing the case should be ousted due to a lack of evidence. Now, if her name sounds familiar, you're going to remember this. Remember how the grand jury had indicted the former Glynn County District Attorney in connection to the investigation surrounding the death of jogger Ahmaud Arbery. Now, Johnson faces charges after she's been accused of hindering the law enforcement investigation into the shooting of the 25-year-old. Now, we know the McMichaels and Roddy Bryan are serving life sentences for murder, and the elder McMichael worked with Jackie Johnson. He was one of her investigators, and there were a lot of phone calls between the two of them, and so that's where things got really sticky. And many believe that the case wouldn't even have been prosecuted had that video not surfaced. Thank goodness for that video. It was able to give the Arbery family the justice they deserve. So now we're wondering, will Jackie Johnson really go to trial now that the judge isn't going to kick her charges? Let's bring back in our guests, Dave Ehrenberg and Michael J. Brown. Dave, you are the state attorney in Palm Beach County, Florida. You know how bad this is when somebody who's the head of an office is criminally charged on the other side of the law. We know she's cloaked in the presumption of innocence, hasn't been convicted of anything yet. But tell me what you think her next move should be at this point.
She may want to settle, Julie, because she's a first-time offender. She was indicted on one felony count and one misdemeanor count, and she could cut a deal, perhaps, that keeps her out of incarceration. If she goes to trial, the evidence is going to come out, and look, it's going to be a matter of what kind of evidence they have, because if it is true, as the state is alleging, that she was lobbying the other district attorney behind the scenes once she supposedly was recusing herself. She lobbied him to clear her buddy, the investigator McMichael. And then after that, she officially recused herself. Then that's a no-no. So it just depends on the level of culpability. But like for a first-time offender like her, she may be wise to settle.
I think that is great advice, Dave. Michael J. Brown, help me take it a step further. Let's say you're representing Jackie Johnson here. What kind of a deal might you want to ask for? What do you think would be appropriate for someone like her?
Yeah, well, I think one of the biggest things, and Dave hit the nail on the head in terms of avoid jail time, but you got to remember there's the competing interest or the other interest, which is saving her law license. A felony here in New York State with automatic disbarment. Even a misdemeanor with dishonesty or public trust type of conviction, that too would cause a disbarment. So I think, number one, keep her out of jail. But more importantly, if she is going to enter negotiations for a plea bargain, you got to make sure that she's going to keep her license. That's going to be difficult. It may very well be on a trial track.
That's an excellent point, Michael. Thank you for that. Because look, she's got to be able to make a living, right? You know, if she's fortunate enough to avoid any time behind bars, and she probably will be, because as you said, Dave, she's a first-time offender. Her, prior record score would be a big goose egg, and so the guidelines would probably be pretty low, especially if they could get that felony kicked. And so preserving that law license would be a big deal for her. That is one we're going to continue to watch. And somewhat of an interesting fact here, as you both know, Dave and Michael, we're broadcasting the trial of Young Thug, the famous rapper in Atlanta, won a Grammy. He's involved allegedly in running Atlanta's most violent street gang, and prosecutors have brought RICO charges against him, and his attorney, Brian Steele, represents Jackie Johnson, too. So she might benefit from this case taking so long. Dave, that can be frustrating for prosecutors. Can it not be when you have private counsel who's, somebody who, like Michael J. Brown here, high profile, a lot of people want him, and, his calendar can only do so much at one time, right?
Right, yeah, the tie goes to the defendant. If there's a doubt, you push it out, Sixth Amendment right to a fair trial. You get a good lawyer like Michael or the guy, Mr. Steele, and yeah, the lawyer's going to say, look, I cannot try both at the same time, and the judge is going to accommodate him. So yeah, Jackie benefits by having this high-profile, excellent defense lawyer on her side.
For sure. Well, you both are excellent lawyers. I'm so happy we had you on this morning to talk about these cases. Dave Ehrenberg and Michael J. Brown, thank you both so much. Oh, and I'm being told you're going to stay with me. What a great surprise. This is fantastic. We're going to talk about Young Thug coming up. Oh, this will be great. Fantastic. All right, you guys, I'll see you in a minute.